I'm not mad about being called away from work.
Oh, looks like you're gonna be late for class.
Okay, it's not funny anymore. Let me out.
But is this really the first time that these kids have done this to you?
No one likes you, right?
What's going on?
Okay, it's nothing.
You know you're gonna tell me.
They've all been horrible to me. Everyone. Even Mom doesn't listen.
Well, dinner's at 6:30.
Too busy talking to Satan. Well, that was bold, telling her about me. Booga booga! No one says that.
Does he want some dinner too?
From the Greek, Diablos, one who blocks the path.
There's no white bearded fella keeping track of all the naughty things you've done.
Are you gonna cry to meet your mommy?
Slow and painful death, so they know that I mean business.
I want you to do something fun for yourself. Something that makes you happy. Do you remember what that feels like?
You just gotta man up.
What am I supposed to do?
Stand your ground.
Sorry about what we did to you the other day. We wanted to make it up to you.
Your life is built brick by the choices you make.
Then why did I choose all this?
Honey, are you okay? I heard voices. Who are you talking to?
Nothing. No one. I'm just talking to myself, okay? Don't worry about it.
I am right down the hall if you need me, okay? I am here to help.
Thanks, Mom. You can't help.
Thank you for joining us on the Downing Cut today. My guest is Chris Julian, originally from New York and now based in Seattle, Washington. He is a versatile filmmaker known for his compelling work across commercial projects, including business promotions, PSAs, and industrial videos. As a skilled editor, cinematographer, and director, Chris has also creatively helmed notable short films and features like Invisible Ink, Vicious, and Diablos. His upcoming projects include Son of a Bish, Fish, Anything Helps, and The Bunker. His ambitious feature film, Scapegoat. Let's talk about that.
Yes.
Welcome to the Downing Cut, Chris. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing great. Thank you for having me, especially considering the delays of getting me on here. I really appreciate the extra effort. So.
Hey, man, by the time we publish this, it'll be 2026. It'll be well worth it. But so, Chris, how did your journey start? How did you become who you are today in this industry?
I would say it was Star Wars. It was certainly Star Wars.
You're one of those.
Yeah, I'm one of those. It was definitely, I was among that generation where there was nothing but Star Wars. And I was 5. In fact, my parents took me to see it for the first time on my 5th birthday, and life completely changed.
Wow.
I had my heart set on being a paleontologist, believe it or not, before that. And then
at 5?
Point, at 5, I was a very precocious child. Yes, I was really, really all about paleontology. And then I saw Star Wars, and then that sort of ate up my entire interest as a kid. And so it was interesting because what I first got into was really the visual effects aspect of it and the sleight of hand aspect of filmmaking and what you can do to tell a story in a different way. And from that, though, that was the gateway into me just understanding more about story, and writing stories became a big part of my teen years and then into college. And even though I don't really have any desire to make a film like Star Wars, it's certainly what inspired everything. And it, it although it may seem like a low bar, it felt like the gold standard for a while of like a way of creating something entertaining for people. Although I'd say that because of my growing interest in storytelling and especially like creating suspense and emotion, uh, that grew into wanting to explore controversial subjects. And I would say that everything that I have done since maybe after college has been about exploring powder keg issues all of them. And many of the times that I've worked on other people's films, I've been attracted to those films because they similarly had hot button issues that I wanted to stand behind. And so that is sort of the one thread, even though there's a lot of different themes in my films. I'd say that's the one big thread. It's like, how do you address big topics in a smart, sensitive, compelling way that gets people to think? I mean, I would say that
Yeah.
there's nothing more thrilling than having a film of mine not just resonate with people, but to have it stir them and move them. And, you know, when I hear people coming back to me, let's say days or weeks later, and they say, after I saw that, I couldn't think of anything else for a really long time. I just kept thinking about it and it was on my mind. That is the victory for me, is creating something that just got people to think. Um, yeah.
I mean, you were a smart 5-year-old then.
Well, thankfully I'm no longer 5. So,
I didn't
yeah,
mean to.
I mean, it took a long time to get to that point, I'd say.
So okay, let's just go back for a sec. So 5 years
Sure.
old, you see Star Wars, you go, "Oh, I want to do that. That's what I want to do." Did your parents buy you a camera? Did you start writing stories? Did you
Oh,
start, storyboarding? What happened?
yeah, actually, oh, that's all great questions. My first skill was drawing.
Nice.
And I was drawing at a very young age, really drawing pretty seriously, even when I was old enough to hold a crayon. And I was thrown into like an advanced drawing class by the time I was 6.
Wow.
I was thrown in with a bunch of like 5th and 6th graders, and I was only in 1st grade. And obviously, they were still better than me, but I was still sort of lumped in with this group in elementary school where they just wanted me to work on drawing more. And that eventually did turn into some significant storyboarding skills later.
Wow.
And now I do feel that I can't imagine being a filmmaker and not being able to draw. It's such a vital piece of the process for me, and I storyboard a lot. I'm also very good at walking in on a set and deciding where the camera angles should be, um, spontaneously if I haven't been able to storyboard stuff. And I think that's a useful skill in and of itself.
Oh
But
yeah.
the drawing skills really, really propelled me into being able to envision what I wanted, but also pass that vision on to cast and crew so they knew what I was going for. And storyboarding was a vital part of that. But getting back to your other question, which was about, oh, did they buy you a camera? Yes, actually, my father had a Super 8 camera. I mean, this is the 70s, so there was
Yeah.
no video stuff. And my father used the Super 8 camera really just for home movies. My father was a really incredible amateur photographer himself. And I mean, he really took amazing, amazing pictures, mostly of family and stuff, when my sister and I were little. But he had a great eye, and then he applied that to just home movies. And eventually, by the time I was about 13 or 14, he let me use that said family Super 8 camera for, silly stop motion stuff and just
Oh, nice.
tinkering around.
Yeah.
And then his camera, which had already been uh, about 17, 18 years old, broke. No fault of mine. Um, I took very good care of it, and it still broke because it was older and it got usage. And so for my 15th birthday, my parents bought me a new Super 8 camera under the
Wow.
premise that we would use that for the home movies for the family after that, which I was happy to do. And so by the time I was 18 and I went away to college, I used that Super 8 camera for my first semester or so of film school.
Very cool.
And I still have that camera. It did break about 18 years ago, but I still have it, and I have
Yeah.
like a large collection of antique cameras, and so now several of my previously functional cameras now function as antique cameras in my collection. Uh, and yeah, that camera really, since it was then mine and I was keeping it in my room, then that really got me to work a lot. And I was doing a lot of stop motion animation and claymation and things like that
Oh, interesting.
in my teen years. And then I guess my parents were not surprised and did not bat an eyelash when I said that I wanted to pursue filmmaking in college.
Yeah.
Although I would say that I went really to the wrong college.
Oh,
The program, it was a state school, but the film program was very, very art oriented, in maybe the worst possible way, the most sort of pretentiously avant-garde way.
mm,
I learned a lot, and it was a grand education in aesthetics, but it did not allow me to really make the kinds of films that I wanted to. I mean, it was so arty and artsy in the worst, most pejorative way possible
yeah.
that it really frowned upon anyone that was actually having human beings in their films. That's how arty it was. It was all about just like going out and getting footage and making pretty aesthetic choices and not telling stories. And I did want to tell stories. And my senior project of those 4 years was like a 20-minute suspense thriller. And one of the instructors was so angry at me for pulling that off in this particular program that he actually walked out on one of my screenings and vowed that he would fail me for that project.
What?
Yeah, oh, it was insane, Joe. It was
Oh
really
my
crazy. I had to
gosh.
switch that from a senior thesis project to a independent study
Oh
so that I
wow.
could graduate and not fail. And because it was no longer a senior thesis project, I couldn't graduate with honors, which really at the time, at 21, really pissed me off. Um,
Yeah.
but in retrospect now, I don't care. You know, whatever. The guy had like an ego the size of the Hindenburg, and it doesn't matter. And I'm sure he's probably dead by now or
Is
close
this
to it.
in New York?
This was, yes, this
Okay.
was in one of the state schools in New York. It was considered one of the most competitive state schools
Yeah.
at the time. It might still be, I don't know, but I would say it was the wrong college choice for me, and I went to it because it had prestige, and it was a state school, so it was cheaper, and my parents did wind up with a lot of financial problems during the time that I was in college. And in retrospect, I probably should have transferred somewhere else, and I didn't want to rock the boat at home,
Yeah.
especially with the financial problems, and because the college that I probably would have chosen to go to would have been a private school, not a state school, and it would have been more expensive. And yet it is probably one of my biggest life regrets,
Hmm.
not leaving that school. I also stayed at the school because I was doing a lot of theater and radio, and I had a lot of friends in those and other places, and I really didn't want to leave my friends. And that's also not a good reason when you're 19.
Right.
But it's the right reason when you're 19. But in retrospect, that's kind of dumb.
You still
Um,
act?
I never really did too much acting in a big way.
Okay.
The theater I was doing set design and construction in the theater. And I play guitar, I'm a songwriter, and I was playing guitar in the pit for several musicals. So I was always
Oh,
sort of
cool.
behind the scenes
Yeah.
for the theater stuff and not really acting. I did some acting in some radio dramas that some friends of mine wrote in college, and those were a blast. Um, but yeah, even though people thought that I had some ability to act, it never really appealed to me. It never really made me want to go like, oh yeah, I want to make headshots and audition for thousands of things. Like, no thanks.
You know,
That's hard work.
it boggles my mind back in the day how rigid teachers were because you that's a common story. If you don't do it their
Okay.
way, you're just not going to do it. Where I feel like you've had that ambition, you had that drive, and
Yeah.
there's certain circumstances even now where people, if they go outside the box, they're rewarded. For
Yes.
being
Right.
thinking creatively and going to that
Sure. Sure.
area. But
Yeah.
do you still have your 8 millimeter film? Did you ever digitize it? Did you ever
I have a
transfer?
bunch of that stuff. I think right now it's only on VHS, and I have
Okay.
the film, so I could get it transferred if I had the money to do
Yeah.
that. And also, most of my college years were 16 millimeter film,
Oh, okay.
color and black and white. So
Nice.
I have the home movies from the family. I have some of my short films doing Super 8 in my teen years and early college, and then I have the majority of my college stuff was the 16 millimeter black and white and a little bit of color. And I feel very glad and grateful that I was really among the last generation to learn shooting on film and editing on film
Oh, yeah.
and using a flatbed, using a Moviola or a Steenbeck, and I used both of those. I never got to use a Chem, but the Steenbecks and the Moviolas were like what we were using to edit. And I graduated in '94, and prior to '94, the only video class that we had in the program, if you could even call it that, was half the semester in VHS tape to tape and half the semester on a Commodore Amiga doing hand-drawn frame-by-frame animation.
Oh, wow.
And that was the only taste of video I had, and everything else is film. And so I graduated in '94. By '96, '97, there was all the digital video stuff that came out. And by '98, it just dominated everything. And it felt very quickly like my film degree was obsolete.
Oh,
It wasn't really obsolete, but in terms of the technical skills, I hadn't been using digital video cameras. And that stuff didn't exist until really a few years after
yeah.
I left school. So I wound up kind of caught up in floundering in jobs that had nothing to do with film and that were really just designed to make ends meet and barely survive and not pay people particularly well. And then I finally decided to go back to school maybe 9, 10 years after
Hmm.
my initial degree, specifically to catch up with the technology.
Oh,
And so I had been at a prestigious 4-year college on a state school that got me nowhere. And yet I returned to a community college at 31. And in only 9 months, 2 semesters, I wound up immersing myself in all the digital technology. And immediately I got out and I was doing freelance work in digital video. And I
wow.
was doing some digital photography and some web design too. And my
Okay.
first few websites of my own, I had designed those myself too. And of course, at by now they look like they would have been,
Oh, sure.
really archaic, in 2003, 2004,
Yeah.
But it was funny that the 1 year at the community college, 10 years after my 4-year degree, was worth more in terms of transferable marketable skills than the entire 4 years that I spent at the other school. So
Yeah, that because of the technology. I mean, everything changed,
yeah,
right? So it just kind of
everything changed.
brought you
Yeah.
up to par. And
Yeah.
so how did you go into that domain after your 2 semesters? How did you just start your own business? Did you start
Yeah.
soliciting? Is that
I
how that works?
Yeah, and some of it, a lot of it, maybe all of it, was word of mouth. It was just friends that knew that I did this and that I was good at it and I had a knack for it. And um, I wound up picking up jobs that were business promos and documentaries and some public service videos and a few commercials, things like that, a few industrial videos, just a lot of interviews, things like that. And I did get the bug for documentary work then too, and
Okay.
I really
Yeah.
loved that. And I feel like even though I had always been an editor, I knew I was an editor even when I was in college. I certainly was nervous when I first touched the digital stuff. It's like, I know that I have the brain for being an editor, but am I going to enjoy it with a computer screen and a keyboard and a mouse?
Mm.
And I was worried about that. But I did realize within the first hour, oh, yes, oh my gosh, I love this. And I feel like my editing skills sort of went into the stratosphere once I started working with documentary material because you have to devise the story. It's not scripted and you have just the raw material. And what can you do? How do you tell a story with this raw material? And how do you structure it in a way that's compelling and that is maybe even suspenseful and that pulls the audience along? Um, to tell the story that way, and that really um, triggered a lot more in my brain. Even though I feel like I don't have necessarily as much interest in doing documentaries now, I could jump into it in a heartbeat and love it
Yeah.
and be instantly capable of telling stories that way again. So,
What is your methodology when you're devising that story? I mean, are you using cue cards? Are you putting, post-it notes, or are you just doing it in your head?
In terms of documentary or fiction or both?
Documentary.
Documentary. A lot of people like to work with index cards or stuff on foam boards or on the floor, and sometimes I'll do that, but most of the time I just love to move interview clips around on a timeline and take up some space, spread out, and move clips around and identify the clips that would go well next to other clips, and then start identifying little capsules of mini stories and partial stories. And really, I settle on the end first. How am I going to end it? And then I do the beginning, and then I find a few little mini arcs in the middle, and then I start to shore it up and then decide what small arcs may be jettisoned and what go well to each other, and then start to determine between A and Z which pieces go in the right order to tell that story.
Interesting.
And I know several other people kind of are shocked when they hear that that's my method.
Yeah.
But I find that to be the best approach for me. I respond more to how a person is conveying their story and emoting on camera rather than seeing like a description or an outline on an index card. Now, when I'm doing fictional pieces, when I'm writing my own stories, I do tend to do the index card thing, and I will like move my table out of the way, and I'll spread out across the whole living room, and I'll move cards around.
Yeah.
But yeah, that the methods are similar, but with the documentary stuff, I really need to hear and see the person's interview to get what I want.
What
Yeah.
do you edit on?
These days, I've been editing on Premiere for quite a while,
Okay.
but I started. It was an interesting journey. I started really seriously on Final Cut Pro back when it was 4 and then 5, 6, 7, and I taught at college classes in those 4, 5, 6, 7. I also was teaching Avid, and actually one of my first editing gigs in Seattle was because I was one of few people around in Seattle that would edit in Avid, and I got that
Oh.
job. Interestingly, through Lynn Shelton.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Lynn was on a set looking for someone to replace her for her advanced editing class. And it was being taught in Avid. And she was just asking around for people that knew how to edit in Avid. And I was like, yeah. And so she connected me with her boss, who hired me. And then I went up teaching that class and a bunch of other classes for about 7 years. And that turned into my longest job ever, actually.
Yeah.
And I owe it all to Lynn. And the story is a little bit more involved, and of course bittersweet, since
Yeah.
she was such a part of the local film culture.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was it was interesting that, like, even though I didn't really care for Avid, I knew it very well, and I could teach it. I had already had taught it in New York, so when I first got out here, getting the job teaching Avid at a school was really handy for me. And then I would say that I wound up eventually learning and then teaching Premiere, and so I had taught all three of the primary professional softwares out there, um, at various times, and sometimes hopscotching between them.
Sure.
And then I've been working in Premiere at least 7 or 8 years straight now,
Okay.
and not working in. I abandoned Final Cut Pro as soon as it went to X. I edited in that once or twice, and I hated it, and I never went back. And then Avid just I think they're not a good company, and they really are so proprietary that they sort of back themselves into a corner, and you need so much. You need your dongle and your this and your that and your key, and their customer service was so bad, and I was like, I'll never work with them again.
Yeah.
Sorry to be bad mouthing like a
No.
major software company out there.
It's reality.
I have barely scratched the surface with I've barely scratched the surface with DaVinci Resolve. I haven't really worked in a big project with that yet. I've opened it up and I've helped some other people out with it, but I haven't really taken a dive
Do they
into
teach you color
understanding.
correction in film school, or film grade or color
Ah,
grading?
In the 4-year degree, not at all, because it was all film.
Right.
And so, in order to color correct with film, you would have to send your negative out and then go through it with a lab technician and identify shot by shot
Right.
what you wanted. Oh, more cyan here and more magenta there and a little less yellow there and
Yeah.
whatever. And so I never did the color correction in film, because with that type of film, we were mostly shooting in reversal and not negative. And what you see is what you get.
Oh,
But once I was in that second school 10 years later and everything was digital, then I was really diving into the color correction a lot.
okay.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
interesting. What brought you to Seattle? Like, let me just think about this. You're in New York.
Sure.
A lot of people are aiming to go to New York, but you're in New York and you're aiming to get out.
So I should clarify that I was not in New York City.
Okay.
I was in New York State. And New York State, most people on the West Coast have no idea. New York State is gigantic. It's about as large in terms of acreage as Washington State,
Well,
maybe a little larger. I'd have to check on that. It's shaped a little differently. It's a big triangle. But New
yeah.
York City is this small little like pinpoint of a dot on a map, and New York State is much larger. And I was in Binghamton for 5 years and in Ithaca, New York for 12. And I was working at Cornell University when I was in Ithaca for half of that time. And then
Nice.
I was freelancing after that. So I was in a small city. And for whatever reason, in retrospect, I don't really know. I didn't feel comfortable moving to New York City.
Hmm.
Maybe I should have. I love New York City now. Every time I visit, I have a great time, and I have friends and some family there, but a lot of college friends settled there. And I feel very at home in New York City. But for some reason, I felt at the time that I was ready to leave Ithaca, oh, maybe New York's too big. I also
Mm.
have this thing where, I mean, this is more personal than career, but I don't. I overheat very easily, and I don't sweat enough or properly, and
That's
I
me too.
can't handle summers. So yeah, so you get it then. I hate hot weather.
Yeah.
I really like. I hated New York summers my whole life, and and to think of going to New York City and dealing with New York City summers was even worse than Ithaca or Binghamton. And also like the idea of moving to LA, also way too hot. Like I visited LA once in February and I was like, this is hot enough for me. Oh my gosh. So I wanted it to be in a place that was like a little more temperate. And Pacific Northwest is really like the best summers in the world. It's like
Yeah.
kind of the world's best kept secret. Um, cat's out of the bag because I ruined it for everybody. But yeah, the summers here are very mild and they're rarely above 75 degrees. They're dry and breezy and sunny and very comfortable. And I didn't realize that summers could be so nice until I moved to Seattle. But anyway, I was thinking of leaving Ithaca. I didn't want to be in a big market like New York City or LA, and I think that was maybe a mistake. But I wanted to be in a city that was sort of like a mid-range size. And so one of my friends who had been in Invisible Ink, my first feature, had already moved out here to Seattle. And when he got wind of me being interested in moving, he was like, "You should come out here, and I'll lend you my entire apartment. I can stay somewhere else, and I'll lend you my like laptop and whatever."
Wow.
And so I basically spent a week out
That's a
here.
good friend.
It was yeah, it was wonderful. It was very life changing, and I'm very grateful to him. Um, and I came out here and felt immediately at home, both in the climate and in the surroundings and in the city, but then also in the film community. In that week, I worked hard to like network. I hate that word,
Yeah.
and really connect with a lot of other filmmakers. And it really did make the decision rather quickly. Like this feels right. This feels like a comfortable environment that I would feel at home in, and that I would make a lot of friends, filmmaker friends, with. Um, and I did, and I moved within 3 months of that. I made that decision. There was a bit of like, I don't know, it was a little Goldilocks-ish. You know, it was like not too big, not too small. I
Hmm.
felt my impression, at least when I first was checking it out, was that Seattle was big enough for people to find work in the film industry, but small enough where we kind of knew each other. Like everybody sort of knew each other.
Yeah.
And that certainly remained my impression for at least a while. Although I don't know if it's necessarily the case anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
I know exactly
Yeah,
what you mean.
it's a little bit both bigger,
Yeah.
where not all of us know each other anymore, and also less less providing work. I mean, the pandemic really hit hard locally, as you know, and I feel like my freelance work just took a nosedive, and it has not recovered since then. I do a lot of other side jobs in addition to whatever video editing or visual effects gigs that I get. I am not making my living exclusively as a video editor or a visual effects artist
Yeah.
or shooter like I occasionally do. Um, I do. I'm a personal trainer and especially a swim instructor, and I work
Nice.
as a model for art classes, and I do a lot of cat sitting, and
Yeah.
I occasionally do cleaning for Airbnbs, and I teach college classes again. I was away from that for a while, and I'm back to that now.
Is it still
So
film related?
that is, yes, all of the film, all of the college classes that I've taught over the last 18 years, on and off,
Do you
have
teach
been
at
film
UW?
related. No, I currently teach at Highline College
Okay.
in Des Moines,
Yeah.
south of the airport.
Yep.
But for a while, I was making most of my living as a teacher, more so than a filmmaker, and I was at um, Seattle Film Institute, Art Institute of Seattle, which no longer exists, Cornish, and the Northwest Film Forum.
Okay.
And now I'm at Highline, and
Interesting.
that's really just like one class at a time, that kind
Yeah.
of thing.
I mean,
Um,
but you have that experience, and you know, I mean, you're pretty much an expert if you're teaching courses, right?
I'm
And
teaching,
as long
yeah,
as you're not that instructor that you had that said you got to do
right.
it this way,
Oh my gosh,
or I'm going
right,
to fail
right,
you.
exactly, right. Although I would say that the artsy, and again, I say that in the meanest way possible, the artsy nature of that program really got me to understand how to tailor my teaching to marketable, transferable skills for anyone that wants to go into it. I did not want anyone else to be left behind the way that I was. I was just floundering and not doing anything related to film because it was not providing me a way of like actually making a living doing it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I feel like, yes, I love filmmaking. And if you love filmmaking in my classroom, I'm going to encourage that, but not to just make art. It's
Yeah.
to have the skills to go out there and make things for other people and get paid for it.
Makes me
So.
think of filming a plastic bag floating in the wind.
Oh yeah. Well, American Beauty, classic moment, classic scene. Right. Yeah, and I mean, even now, like if anyone were to look at any of the films that I was making in college, aside from that senior project, which was this suspense thriller thing,
Yeah.
everything else was still very experimental. Um, and people might be like, "What the heck was that?" You know, there's not really a market for that. Um,
I do like the thrillers though.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
with your experience in working on various films and working with
yeah.
actors,
Sure.
what qualities or skills do you believe set an exceptional actor apart from the rest? What makes a good actor?
Oh,
Like when you're casting, why do you pick who you
yeah.
pick?
I would say an actor's ability to be flexible with the moment in taking direction. That is the key during the audition process for me. Is an actor's ability to change on a dime what they're doing to try something different, to try something new. And with that flexibility, I would say has to be a level of trust that an actor has for when a director is or is not getting what he or she needs. Um, that the actor can trust the director enough to say, this isn't working the way I'm hoping or imagining, and let's try this or this or this. And being flexible enough to play with it, experiment, explore, make those changes until they're right. Um, an actor that delivers the same line the same way over and over, no matter what direction you give them, is not going to um, survive on a shoot.
Yep.
Yeah, that rigidity can be really deadly to a film.
Have you ever run into that before?
Yeah, actually, it's interesting because Invisible Ink was a feature film that I made kind of pulling out of a hat, and I mostly made it with non-actors. Yeah,
Good for
and with
you.
some theater actors, and there were definitely, like, looking back, I mean, I guess you always hope that you can look back at your work and say, "Oh, I could do better now." Um, but there's aspects of that film that maybe are not working, and maybe some of that problem was the writing, or the writing that I did with my friend Jen, and maybe it was how I was directing the actors, but it was a lesson in how to avoid some of that rigidity. And sometimes, the other aspects of the film sort of shine through, and then some of the performances are like, what's going on here? I think that with Invisible Ink, well, that film was, just to give a little context, that film was 3 short stories that were each about 30 to 40 minutes, and we brought them together into a single feature. So it was
Oh,
very
nice.
unusually
Yeah.
structured and created. But we were working on each of those films separately initially, and then we wound up doing reshoots that sort of combined and interwove them later. But
Hmm.
that first film, which was the first of the 3 in the structure of the feature, I was sort of new to directing for the first. I wasn't new to directing, but it was my first time directing in maybe 9 years or 10 years or something. 9 years, and I think it was hard for me to get what I wanted, and the non-actors didn't have as much experience
Hmm.
with just being flexible on screen. Although, interestingly, I found that the theater actors that I cast were sometimes posed more difficulties because they were so used to acting bigger, and I was looking for subtle and squashed down and
Yeah.
subdued. And especially since the non-actors, I guess my lesson at that time, this is again going back maybe 20 years when we were shooting it, was that it was sometimes easier to bring a non-actor up to a level of drama than a theater actor down a few levels from melodrama into drama.
Yeah. It's easier to say, go a little bit bigger, a little bit more,
Yeah,
crank it
that's
up
right.
versus
That's right.
tone it down. No, no,
Tone it down
more,
is harder.
more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Because then,
Um,
yeah, I've experienced both,
sure.
but I've only done theater once. I wasn't
Okay.
a big fan of it, and
hmm
it was exhausting. Really, that's the reason why.
Theater can be exhausting for
Or
sure. Although
film,
some people hate how exhausting film is if you're on set for
yeah,
14, 15
yeah,
hours at a time.
yeah. You want me to do that
And some people will be
again?
like, "You crazy?" Yeah, 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 yeah. Whereas theater, actors might work for 2 to 5 hours in a day, and then they have a break, and
Yeah,
then they come back, and then they work on the same thing, and they try to improve it again. And so,
yeah.
yeah, those processes are very different. I remember on that on Invisible Ink, one of the things that a senior actor told me, he had done some theater and specifically some improv, which was great, but he had never done film before, and he just said that he was a little overwhelmed and intimidated by how fractured and fragmented the filmmaking process was
Sure.
compared to what he was used to.
Yeah.
And that took a lot of effort for him to sort of embrace that fractured nature of, like, doing a take and then stopping and talking about it and then doing another take, and that stop and start. The stop and start is hard for any actor, I think, but especially an actor
Yeah.
that's not used to it.
Especially, I mean,
Um,
yeah. I mean, when you try to get yourself in that moment and then it doesn't work out, and then you pull yourself out, and then you try to put yourself back in, and it's
yeah,
just,
yeah.
yep, yep.
And especially for anything emotional. The unique thing for me on Invisible Ink was that I wound up in a situation where I had to act in it, and
I saw that.
It
I saw
yeah,
your
it
name.
went well. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It went okay, and I'm happy with the performance that I gave in that film. It was only maybe 15 minutes worth of screen time over a 2-hour film, um, but it wasn't like 2 minutes. But anyway, directing and acting at the same time, I would say, is Yeah, it is the hardest thing you can do. To have a brain that can switch between those two things is it's remarkable. It's a skill, and I don't claim to be great at it, but it is a bit of a roller coaster. It's a bit of a back and forth in very different parts of your brain to think about lighting and setting up the shots and making sure that these camera angles are going to edit together and making sure the blocking is the way you want. And then all of a sudden to sit down and emote and then stop and then turn around and think again about directing other actors and resetting the camera to other places, and that is really really hard work, and I don't know if I'd ever want to do it again,
Yeah.
or if I did it would be for like a Hitchcockian
Yeah.
cameo.
Yeah. Well,
Really,
that
it's just not
I
fun.
ran into that because I was going to do a sequel to Cousin, and
Oh, okay.
the and I decided not to be in it because I'm like, I
Yeah.
need to be behind the camera. I
Yeah.
can't
Yep.
be in
Yep.
it this time because I just feel like once
It's too much.
my wife was my co-director, but even at that point, you're still kind of giving up that control. You're kind of
Yep.
giving up that vision.
You're giving up the ability to see the big picture at all time.
Yeah, yeah,
I was lucky that in some of my more emotive scenes in Invisible Ink, um, my co-writer Jen was on set to direct me for some of
yeah,
those.
yeah.
But there were some other scenes where she was not available, and we were very sort of bare bones crew wise,
Mm,
and I had to make a lot of decisions on the fly myself
yeah.
while I was also in the scene, and that was tough. So yeah,
So I have questions prepared, but I just want to ask you because if you're
sure.
making features, at what point, in your opinion, like there's a lot of people that continue to just make shorts, but there's like when do you graduate the shorts and go to a feature? Like what is that? How do you get to that point?
Oh gosh, I have answers for that, but they are not going to be satisfying to you or anyone else.
That's okay.
Um, yeah, yeah, yeah. Invisible Ink turned into a feature accidentally, and really at the expense of my credit card. And
Okay.
it was not a normal way of like, oh, let's find financing and get a few $1 million to make this feature film. It was, okay, we got a $1,500 grant. I'm running up my credit card for another $3,500. I don't know how I'm going to pay for it. And we were shooting very untraditionally in the sense that everybody, cast and crew, they all worked, they all went to school, they all had full-time
Mm,
this and that and
mm-hmm.
families and whatever. So we were not shooting full days. I think that over the course of all of Invisible Ink we maybe had 3 full day shoots the whole time, and everything else was
Wow.
piecemeal, which
Wow.
in a lot of ways is like a dumb way to make a film. It was, okay, we have access to this diner from 5 a.m. until they open at 8 a.m. So let's all run in there and make the scenes that we need to at the diner and then get out before they open,
Yeah.
and then we all go to work or school. And then in the evening, this person's apartment is free, and after work, we're going to go and we're going to shoot these 3 scenes in 5 hours or 4 hours or something.
Yeah.
And there's a bit of yo-yoing and, mental slingshotting involved too for that.
That's a lot of work.
So, yeah, it was a lot of work. It was crazy. And it was not really necessarily a good way of making a film. And I feel like, with the exception of Scapegoat, which we could talk about because it's a very different category, I still am trying to make the shorts enough to try and attract enough attention that I could attract the financing for a feature or whatever.
Yeah.
I have scripts for 4 features right
Wow.
now, ready to go, or one is like 98% ready to go and the others are ready to go, and I have no idea how I would get those funded, and so that's why I keep making the shorts. Diablos is how you and I met,
Yes.
and
We'll talk about that too.
yeah,
Was that a
and
feature?
that was not a feature. That was only
Okay.
36 minutes,
Okay.
and because it was 36 minutes, my suspicion is that that's why that's hardly gotten into any festivals at all. Like, the where I met you at the film summit was the only festival that accepted it, which I found really, really surprising, shocking, but also disheartening because, and for those in the audience, Diablos is about a really heavy duty and controversial, but also very relevant and vital current topic. And we also approached it in a way that was very different than anyone else had done before. And we felt like this is our hot button issue and we are getting in on it. And we wrote a script that was 25 pages and it kept expanding to the point where it was 36 minutes when we were done. We actually added 4 scenes during the course of the shoot that we were getting, ideas for. And 36 minutes is not a festival friendly length. And even though we felt like we had a strong film on our hands, we applied to maybe 24 festivals and we only got into one. And that's how I met you.
Out of 24?
Out of 24.
What?
So we gave up.
Okay, let me ask you this, because when I saw it, my first thought was like, oh, he's going there. That subject matter. And I thought, wow, that's bold. That was my thinking. And I thought, but that's good, because it makes it'll. And it's, I mean, I love it. I love the thought that you make films that make people think, because that's exactly what I want to do too, is make people think. But your film was almost like, holy smokes. And you're like, it's that question of, is it too soon?
Right.
Is it too soon?
Right.
But then,
right. And actually, at the screening, we were only 2 days after another school shooting. So for those that are watching or listening, the film is about a bullied teenager who is spending all of his time alone and concocting an elaborate plan to shoot up his school. And the hook, the catch, is that in this planning phase, while he's alone, he's actually having a conversation with the character he believes to be the devil. And so it is not about a character being evil or a character being crazy. It's about what do you do with the rage that you have boiling up inside you when you are not treated well. What do you do with it? What do you do with anger? And what are your options in life? How do you vent? How do you deal with this problem? And I guess one of the unique things about that screening, we opened the festival. We were the first film in that, 2 or 3 day run of films. And I was a little nervous about that. And even though I thought the audience was relatively small, I had people coming out of the woodwork after the film for days telling me, oh, how moved they were by this film and how powerful it was and how thankful they were that we made it and how resonant it was and how happy they were that it was made, that it was out there in the world. And so it was such a weird, odd, disheartening contradiction to be getting this feedback. I had people at that festival saying, oh, I didn't get to see your film, but I had 3 different people telling me about it.
Yeah.
And you even contacted me because of that too.
Yeah.
And so it was a really weird contradiction to get that feedback from anyone that was seeing it for the first time, and yet to have been rejected from dozens of film festivals, presumably because either they were afraid of the subject matter or because of the length.
I
Or
feel
both.
like, because I
Maybe
feel like,
both.
I mean, think about this. We have films, John Wick. You have Rambo. I mean, it's
all the violence.
Exactly. So that can't be it. It's the thing that makes you think.
It's the
thought
thinking.
process.
It's the cerebral portion of it.
Yes.
It's questioning what we know as a reality. And again, for those that haven't seen the film does not approach it in a pro-gun or anti-gun way at all.
Right.
It has nothing to do with that, and it's not even about violence per se.
No.
But it's about choices.
But it's a psychological journey that you go through. And I think I love movies like that. That just, if you can make me think, and if you can show me a movie that says that you know that I'm intelligent.
Yeah.
That's the key for me. I'm like, let me figure it out.
And for me, getting an audience to relate to a character that would have otherwise been villainized was important to me too. So I feel like that film, I co-wrote and co-directed it with my friend Ian. We had felt that this was our ticket to really jumping up to the next level or two to attract financing for features, and that didn't happen. So I'm still making short films. So in answer to your question, how do you graduate? I don't know. I feel like I haven't graduated, and even though Invisible Ink was already shot 20 years ago and finished 18 years ago, and it was on Amazon for 7 years um, before the contract ran out. Like I haven't graduated in that respect, and so I wound up just in this. The funny thing is that we were originally supposed to do this in January. It got delayed till June, but since then I shot 2 short films in a 3-week period in
Nice.
mid-April to early May, which was very exciting. But it
Yeah.
also is in the context of me trying to graduate too, to try and get some short films out there that will get similar attention. And all of that is to try and attract enough to make those features
Yeah.
that I want. Yeah.
How
And Scapegoat is like the highest and the biggest budget and the most important of those features in my uh, hierarchy of
yeah.
work rating waiting to go. Yeah.
And I think that's great because you have that goal. I think there's a lot of
Yeah.
people. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm one of those people that go, I don't have anything. I got my sequel, and that's going to be working it. I don't have any other scripts or any other ideas other than little snippets,
Sure.
of
And the
ideas.
desire to make films, because I know
Yes.
that that's something that you have, but you don't have specific ideas. I have like too many ideas. Um, and actually, Scapegoat was an idea that I had uh, in my last few months of college.
Nice.
So that was literally 31 years ago, and I'm
Yeah.
still working on it, and I'm still working towards it.
Yeah.
And everything else, in some way, is in service to eventually get there. And it's every film, short or feature, is, in my view, um, like a stepping stone to get to Scapegoat, which is the biggie. And that was a project that I knew even at that early age, like, oh well, this I have something major here, and I know that this would be a world-changing story to tell.
Are you able to tell us the log line
Sure, I can tell you a little bit about it.
without spoiling it?
Scapegoat, yeah, it's two interwoven pieces. The main stem of it is that it is a radically different and anti-religious telling of the Jesus story
Oh,
from the perspective of Judas Iscariot,
nice.
who's the most villainized and
Yeah.
victimized, character.
Yeah.
But it's under the premise that Judas Iscariot is not only a young idealistic teenager, but Judas and Jesus are in love.
Wow.
Yeah.
You be pushing some
So it
buttons.
recasts the whole story. Yeah. Oh, well, speaking of hot button issues, right? So it's reframing the entire story as a gay tragic romance period piece.
Yeah.
But the other significant aspect of it, which is even more hot buttony if you can believe it, um, this version of the story abandons the Christian model of the universe. It doesn't have this God, devil, heaven, hell, sin, redemption. It's much more Eastern Buddhist in flavor, and it casts the Jesus character more as like the next Dalai Lama who is misunderstood.
Okay.
And with that, even though I'm abandoning the Christian cosmology, I'm replacing it with a lot more metaphysics and paranormal activity and
Yeah.
psychic abilities and telekinesis and for lack of a better term, the Force, Star Wars.
Yeah.
So Star Wars meets Jesus, right?
Yeah.
Crazy, I know. But in this telling, the Jesus character is haunted by these visions of violence and bloodshed and gore. And so the audience at the beginning of the film only sees little pieces, little snippets of this violence, and really without context, just knowing that he's sort of tortured mentally by these images of blood. And as the film progresses, what the audience realizes is that what he sees is the future, and specifically the future of Christianity.
Oh, interesting.
So he realizes that all these things he's seeing in the future are because of him. and all being perpetrated in his name.
What?
And so he attempts to sabotage the entire thing, the whole movement. And then the Judas character sees his hero slash teacher slash lover falling apart. And the Last Supper is a nervous breakdown.
Holy smokes.
That I know. So that Judas tries to do anything he can to fix the situation. And in fixing it, he makes it worse. So there's this Oedipal quality to it where the more you're trying to avoid the thing that you're fearing, the more you create it and perpetuate it and cause it. And that is the story in a nutshell.
Are you going to do it in a time period, or is it going to be modernized?
It'll
or-
be in. It has to be in first century Palestine because the flashbacks to the future have to be in the future.
Oh,
They
interesting.
have to be
Yeah.
depicting the Crusades and the Inquisition
Okay.
and the Holocaust
Yeah.
and the Salem witch trials and all of that stuff. It has to be in the future, so it has to be in first century Palestine. It is not something that I could do as a modern piece at all.
That's meaty.
Yeah, it is.
Meaty.
It's meaty and it's also very big budget. So that's why
Yeah.
you know, my other feature projects and the 2 shorts that I just shot are smaller budget. And the idea would be to graduate to that level.
So your basic
and I
your advice to newbies, new filmmakers, is make shorts. That's your business card. Make a very good business card. Shop it out there that so people can see that you know what you're doing, right?
I would say yes, although that method still hasn't worked necessarily for me either. You know, I thought that Diablos would be that.
Yeah.
And so I'm still hoping that Son of a Bish and Anything Helps could possibly be that.
Yeah.
That is, what you described is the path that many of us believe to be the case, and I still believe to be the case, but I also could be wrong. I don't know. I feel that the feature projects that I have on my hands are not something that I could just fund myself the way that I did Invisible Ink. They would require, yeah. So Kiddo Kyle would probably require, I'm guessing, maybe $500,000. So that's still pretty cheap as a feature goes,
Yeah.
but not pocket change and not something that I have at my disposal. And then the bunker, I think I could maybe do for maybe $5 million, and that would still be modern for the most part with a little bit of time period piece element. And then maybe Guardians of Letters, which is another one that I have, that might be a $30 million project, and then maybe Scapegoat is $60 or $70 million.
Okay.
I don't know. I could be wrong about all these things,
Yeah.
and maybe I'm just delusional. I don't know.
You have to be a little bit. I mean, in order
You
to be a
have to be,
filmmaker,
yes,
right?
you do. You have to be a little crazy and a little bit stupid and a little bit
Yeah.
delusional to make it happen.
I always thought you had to be a music video person to make movies for some reason.
Interesting.
I always thought these guys that are famous directors started out in music videos.
Sure. Well, David Fincher, yeah.
Yeah.
David Fincher made a ton of like Madonna videos and things, and then his first feature was Alien 3,
Yeah.
which actually is a sort of a forgotten gem. And he hates it because the studio treated him terribly at the time, apparently.
See,
But it's
that's
actually,
that's a question then. I mean, if
Mhm.
that's
Studio involvement,
right.
right. It's another whole thing.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
so let me ask you this. I know
Sure.
you do commercial work, PSAs,
Mhm.
business promos. How do you balance your creative vision with the practical demands of those kind of studios, if you will?
They're separate. They're really separate for me. And I feel like the skill set for making them are the same, but everything else is different. I feel like the two inform each other in terms of camera work and lighting and editing and sound mix and color correction, but they are very separate things for me. I feel like as much as I enjoy actually working on commercials and business promos and PSAs and things like that, I don't foresee, again, I could be wrong, I don't foresee any of those gigs leading me to getting financing for maybe a high budget short or a low budget feature. I don't
Mhm.
see those things necessarily connecting. Um, and maybe someone will tell me otherwise. I don't know. But it hasn't happened yet where, uh, you know, a connection I make from a commercial project or a documentary project leads me to connections that are like allow financing to happen.
And we know that
Uh,
there's a lot of commercial work here in the Pacific Northwest.
yeah, there's more commercial work than fictional films, than feature films.
Yeah.
Sure. Although I think that a lot of the bigger companies like Amazon, Google, Boeing, maybe Starbucks, Microsoft, they have, it seems to me that more of those companies wind up with internal shooting houses than farming that out to outside companies.
Well, I can.
And I have plenty of like former students that have jobs now shooting or editing for Amazon, and that's all they do.
Are they
And they
employed
have not.
for under
They are
Amazon?
employed. Yeah, they are.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I want
And
that
I'm
gig.
both proud of them and envious of them,
Yeah.
and because they are living comfortably where I have not been.
Yeah.
But also, I don't know how much they have been able to invest their time in some of their own films, their own projects, the way that I continue to do.
And
Like
they
I'm
have to be
always
in the
working on
office.
something. Right.
The
So, but they also have good equipment at their disposal
Oh
too.
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
think as an actor, I've done a lot of commercial work for like Amazon. I think
Sure.
T-Mobile, all
Hmm.
those type of things, and we're always looking for like films and anything
Yeah.
that's happening in that arena. Um,
Right. I think
so
that sometimes the actors that get involved in some of the commercial work that I'm doing, they hope or expect me to sort of pull them into like a feature project or something. And I'm like, I'm trying to find the money just like you are. I'm
yeah,
trying, yeah, I
yeah,
don't know how to get there.
yeah.
Yeah.
So since you wear multiple hats, like an editor, cinematographer, and director, how do the roles influence each other in your storytelling process?
I think like an editor most.
Okay.
And when I'm on set, I'm not as much thinking about getting the pretty shots as I am how do the shots fit together and how do the shots fit together quickly enough to tell the story. So I feel like editing really has influenced my approach to being on set as a director more than anything. And I would say that my storyboarding skills, my storyboarding work is part of having been an editor on so many projects that I think in terms of the frame and I think of in terms of like what is going on in the frame, how do I tell the story in the frame, and then when do I need a completely different frame to tell the next part of the story.
Yeah.
So I think that it is the editing both in documentaries excuse me, and in fictional pieces that has given me that ability. And then when I'm working with a cinematographer, I rely on them to make the image pretty within the frame, as long as the performance or whatever is going on frame is happening quickly enough that I can move on to the next thing. I am one of those filmmakers in the minority that really dislikes most of Kubrick's work because of that reason. Beautiful images always left on screen too long.
Yeah.
And not good at telling the story, not good at the economy of storytelling. It was interesting because when I went to visit a college friend of mine in LA, she and her husband both work as editors, and she almost sheepishly kind of was reluctant and embarrassed to tell me that she didn't like Kubrick. And I was like, me too. So we really we bonded and commiserated over that
It's
because
funny.
we just were appalled by that approach.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, to me, it's all about the economy of storytelling, and even if my films are longer than people expect, like for example, Diablos being 36 minutes instead of 12, it's not a slow film.
Yeah.
Like no one can accuse my films of being too slow or you know or too languid or droopy, or sagging in the center or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Like it is the tightness of the editing that is what I'm thinking about first, and then that influences also how I choose the shots and choose the frames. And so for Son of a Bish, which is the film that I shot in mid-April with Gavin Michaels, who was the lead in Diablos, he wrote the script,
Oh.
produced it, and starred in it. and I was working with Gavin and then Alec Simmons, my cinematographer. When the three of us would get together on these Zoom calls, prepping for me to be out in New York State to shoot it, I was pumping out dozens, hundreds of storyboards, and then I had them as sounding boards to say, "Oh, yeah, these do work well together, but I imagine this another way," and I was relying on them uh, to piggyback on my ideas and then come up with how we would, especially with some of the blocking with the climax, which was really a very busy scene to shoot. It was about like pumping out the storyboards and knowing how it will all cut together and knowing that it will cut together nicely when it gets to the edit, instead of shooting something that doesn't really line up, or that in using this angle it won't work from that angle,
Yeah.
and you can't have those two together. So I'm always thinking in those terms. And yeah.
We have enthusiasts appreciate that because you can always tell when someone flips an angle. You're
Oh
like,
my gosh,
what
yeah, you're like,
happened?
oh my god, that was flipped. Ah, that was a mistake.
What
Yeah.
what kind of challenges have you faced while directing complex scenes, and how did you overcome it?
Whew. I saw a bit of advice on Facebook recently from Viggo Mortensen, who one of the people that he worked with on Lord of the Rings said, "Go slow to go fast." And I loved it because I know that I've had those experiences where if you panic, you will never think through the problem. If you slow down, take a few steps back, think outside of the box, the solution will come and it will take less time for that solution rather than trying to panic and then put band-aids on things and have it not work ultimately. So I would say that being on set requires patience. The thing is that I'm not a slow shooter. When I'm on set directing or being a cinematographer even, I am not slow, and I generally tend to stay on schedule very often, most of the time. Um, and on Son of a Bish, that was 4 days of shooting, and we were either on time or early every day of those 4 days. And part of that was a lot of good planning. But that is to say that I'm generally better at budgeting the time to provide me the patience that I'm going to need to shoot it. Um, to take that time and think it through and solve the problem and understand, okay, this is working. Why is this not working? How can we solve that or that? And that takes a thought process that cannot involve panicking.
Because I think the panic comes
Those are
in
different.
when a director is like, everybody's waiting, right? And that
Yes,
pressure
yes,
of,
yes.
what are we doing? I don't know. What's going on? I don't know.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, absolutely. And then they feel, oh my God, I got to come up with something. Um, Instead, thinking through it will yield better results. And then the cast and crew will be like, oh, that does work. Thank you. Yeah.
Since you've made a number of films, is there something, a technique that you typically use to build atmosphere or emotional depth, especially in genres like thrillers or horrors? Is there like a common language that you always go to, or is there, like there's some filmmakers who always have their thing, right? Wes Anderson
Hmm.
has his frame.
Symmetry, his
Yeah.
frame. Yeah,
So,
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, do you have anything like that that you like we would know as years go
That you would
by?
recognize a film of mine
Yeah.
based on a
Yeah.
signature. Yeah, it's probably intercutting of two different scenes or two different feelings or two different contradictory things.
Okay.
Um, and I'd say I did that a bunch of times in montage sequences in Invisible Ink, and I did it in Diablos a few times, and it also shows up in several of my scripts that are not yet films. Um, but it's the ability to take like two things and combine them and interweave them in a way that tells a story in a profound way that
Hmm.
you sort of take it in a very, very different way. I would say that it definitely shows up. I've been building an animatic for Scapegoat based on drawings, colored, and then voiceover actors and original music from a composer friend of mine.
Nice.
And so I've been building it all, and then I decided to rewrite portions of it, and now I'm rebuilding portions that I made changes to. But there's a lot of crazy intercutting in the animatic for Scapegoat based on the script. And I would say that, some of my biggest influences involved some of that kind of intercutting. And I would say two films in particular that I saw in college had the biggest influence. Dead Again, which is sort of a Hitchcockian suspense thriller with a reincarnation angle, directed by Kenneth Branagh and starring like an amazing cast: Derek Jacobi, Emma Thompson, a bunch of other folks. Miriam Margolyes is in it, Campbell Scott. And that has a really amazing set of intercuts at the end. There's two big twists in the film towards the end, and then the twists are reinforced by this intercut quality.
I love it.
And that was very influential for me. And then the other one was Jacob's Ladder, Tim Robbins, directed by Adrian Lyne. And that is one of these films where he's in three different time periods and he keeps intercutting between the three times, and you don't know which is real and which is fantasy and which is dream. And the audience is as confused as the character, and he's sort of moving from time to time or place to place, and you don't know what. And then it's really only in the last 10 minutes of the film that you're like, oh, that's what that was about. And I love films that do that like send you on this journey and you don't know where it's going until the end, and then you're like, oh, that's it. And then watching it in repeated viewings like I have done for Dead Again, you get more out of it. You see all those little pieces coming into place, and you see all those puzzle pieces in advance. And I love films like that, and I feel like that those two films definitely had the largest influence on how I structure stories, and specifically how I structured the last act of Scapegoat.
Right
Yeah.
down Dead Again.
Oh yeah.
I haven't seen that.
I have it on Blu-ray if you want the cover right here. Let's see. Where is it? Am I attached here? Yeah, this is the cover.
Okay. I do recognize that image.
Yeah.
I love
It
that
came out in
image.
1991. I believe that Jacob's Ladder was 90 or 91 also.
Huh. Is that even opened?
It is open. In
Okay.
fact, I do this all the time. It's just to show you. This is the obsessive. So you can kind of like see my collection over there.
Yes.
I have like the bottom half is all films. And what I typically do is that I use a razor and I slice down the edges so I can get the film out.
Yeah.
But then preserve the case.
It's
yes.
like it looks brand
and I
new.
do that a lot, and I keep very good care of all my stuff. And I often, when I upgrade from DVD to Blu-ray, from Blu-ray to 4K, I always have the older one that I'm ready to sell, and it's always in better
In
condition.
mint condition, everyone's like, "Oh,
this. Yes,
yeah,
exactly." One of my friends came over and she was like, "Oh, this is still unwrapped. We're gonna watch it tonight, right?" And she ripped it right off, and I'm like, "What are you doing?"
Oh,
I was so annoyed.
You're not a friend anymore. You're out. Get out.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
What?
That was just like.
So you like to make people think. You like to push the boundaries. How do you decide when to push the boundaries? And like, is there sometimes where you'll be on set and you'll think, oh, we need to go in this direction, or is it pre-planned ahead of time? Because I mean, you have scripts already written, and you're probably still, mulling over and marinating and thinking about things.
I'd say the boundary pushing really happens in the scripts first.
Okay.
It really does. And the technical aspects on the shooting days are icing on the cake. It's really about finding what we want. So the other film that I shot recently, it's called Anything Helps, and it's a single scene short. So instead of 36 minutes of Diablos being too big for festivals, this one is still controversial, but it's 7 minutes. It's a 7-page script that I co-wrote with my co-writer, Garrett Fisher. And Anything Helps is about a war veteran, Iraq, Afghanistan, that period, so early 2000s. And it is revealed he has some PTSD issues. He has some rage issues. But he winds up at a bus stop in the middle of the night, and there's a homeless guy there. And the sign on the homeless guy's chest says "Help out a homeless vet." So he thinks that this is an opportunity to create conversation, and in the conversation, he realizes that this homeless guy is not a vet.
Mm.
And so, what does that invite in terms of understanding homeless issues,
Yeah.
veteran issues,
Yeah.
PTSD issues, um, sympathy, grief? So, to me, it's like, how do I create that powder keg? Uh, and how do I create a climax and also a resolution that is interesting, satisfying, controversial? And so I'm like, Garrett and I are very happy with the end of Anything Helps. And of course, I can't tell you
Is that
what
it?
it is
Is it out
because I haven't
in
seen it yet.
festivals right now?
No, we just finished shooting it in early May. So it was
Oh,
basically
okay.
like 5 weeks ago. So I'm going to be editing it this summer.
Nice.
So we haven't even finished it. But that's the kind of powder keg issue that I like to do. And
Yeah.
even Ian Stone, who I co-wrote and co-directed Diablos with, the first film that I worked on with him, it was his first time directing, and he co-wrote it, and I came on as cinematographer and later editor. But I was attracted to the project because it was about a woman who spent her time figuring out how to exact revenge on her rapist.
Mm.
And that's also only a 7-minute film. And even though I was not involved in the writing of that or the directing of that, I was more there on technical support. I was very proud of working on that film and the power that that film had. And it was another piece of the puzzle of, I want to make films that have controversial subjects that are dealt smartly and with sensitivity
Yeah.
um, and getting people to think. So
Is it difficult
yeah,
to find people who will participate in a film like that?
for me it has not been so far, but also we're in a smaller market here,
Yeah.
and I'm not asking big name actors to come on board. I'm typically approaching people that are interested in auditioning for projects like that and who are hungry enough that they want to be involved in meaty performances,
Mm-hmm.
meaty acting gigs. And very often, like when I held the auditions for Anything Helps, that was often the refrain. When people came in and wanted to audition, they were like, "Oh, this is really powerful. This is really strong,
Yeah.
and I love how it resolves." And you know,
Nice.
uh, I'm more attracted to this character, but the other one really is meaty too. And yeah, so I think it is really about creating the scripts that do that.
That's awesome.
Um,
How do you maintain this creative energy?
I'm like mentally hyperactive. I'm always thinking about this stuff.
Yeah.
Always. And then like I'll text Garrett like, "Oh, I have another idea." And he's like,
Write it down.
yeah, it's just yeah, you're right. And I'm always writing those ideas down. And we've gotten into a rhythm though that once we know that we're working on a project together, we don't work on it unless we're in the room together.
Okay.
And we have ideas, but we keep those ideas pretty much until we're in person together, and then we're like, okay, this is my idea.
Nice.
And that's kind of an exciting way of working. And Garrett and I have now written 2 features together, plus the one short, which is Anything Helps. So that's really wonderful. And he's, I guess, the third person that I've collaborated with on script writing. Jen, I worked with on Invisible Ink, and then Ian I worked with on Vicious and Diablos, and now Garrett with Kiddo Kyle, The Bunker, and Anything Helps. And Kiddo Kyle came from a first draft idea from a friend of mine, Mike, too. So we were building on that in a different way. But yeah, so that's really how things have rolled out so far. But of course, these scripts are just sort of floating in the ether, waiting to find
Yeah.
money.
It'll
Really,
it'll happen. What?
yeah,
So let's talk about Invisible Ink real quick. You had mentioned it was on Amazon Prime or Netflix?
yeah,
Amazon
yeah.
Prime.
Amazon,
What was
right?
the process of getting it on Amazon Prime like? Was that
That
easy?
was crazy.
Was it?
And yeah, so I finished Invisible Ink in 2006, and similar to Diablos, it didn't get accepted into any festivals.
Because it was too long?
No, it was a feature, and it was a good length for a feature.
Okay.
I mean, there are problems with the film, maybe in terms of performance, but not in terms of pacing or the feel of it or the subject matter. But it didn't get in for whatever reason. And yet, unbeknownst to me and Jen, there were some strings being pulled in the background that we didn't know about. And so
Oh.
there was Circus Road Pictures is a company out there, and they do a lot of different things right now. But Circus Road had somehow gotten a copy of Invisible Ink, and I think what happened was they were friends with people that did programming at festivals, and one or
Nice.
two of these festival programmers had passed Invisible Ink on and said, "We couldn't program this, but it should have a life elsewhere." So out of the blue, 5 years after we finished the film,
Wow.
one of the guys from Circus Road reaches out to us and says, "Hey, would you be willing to pay us to find you a distributor?"
Mm.
And so we raised basically as much money as it had cost to make the film, which is about
Wow.
$5,500,
Holy smokes.
to hire Circus Road. And then Circus Road took that money and shopped the film around to distribution companies. They found us a distributor that was interested. That company turned out to be terrible. They got us a deal on Amazon. It was Amazon Instant Video before it was Prime. So it
Mm.
was Amazon Instant Video, so you still had to pay for it. You still had to rent it or buy it.
Yeah.
So it wasn't free with a Prime membership. And I think that the Prime membership at the time was really only for like the big budget stuff. So it was more popular in this wound up being on there from 2012 to 2019. So this particular company found us Amazon Prime, and Amazon was willing to put it on their platform. But the thing was that this company was so sketchy and in the hole themselves,
Mm.
apparently, that they paid us, I think, for the first 2 months, never paid us again. They wound up filing for bankruptcy, and we never saw any money after that.
Holy
And then
smokes.
the film distribution deal expired with Amazon, and I did not want to reach out to this company
Yeah.
for more. And so I probably should reach out at some point to Amazon directly and see if they're willing to put it back up. But at that point, the film is now, 19 years old.
Did you break even?
No,
You were in the hole.
no,
Okay.
no,
That was the
no.
bit. Like, is
It
it?
was it. We got a grant from like a local organization in Ithaca, New York, for $1,500, which we were very thankful for. But
Yeah.
that was really only a third of what became the budget, and the rest was me running up my credit card
Yeah.
and not paying anybody, not paying the composers. We paid a little bit to the sound engineer that did the audio mix, and I did everything else myself. And I never saw more than $80 from that company because of the Amazon deal in
Wow.
7 years. And I know that people were watching it because people would tell me, "Oh yeah, I got it, I rented it,
Yeah.
whatever."
Yeah.
So yeah, that never really materialized for anything. And I think that the page for Invisible Ink is still up on Amazon, and you could possibly buy the DVD, but you can't stream it anymore
Oh,
because of that.
because the company went under.
And the contract expired.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
Holy smokes.
at this point, I feel like I don't want to put more energy into it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Other than it being sort of a nostalgia piece for, like, I don't know. Even Diablos, I'm frustrated by, and I don't know what to do with at this point. Like right now, it's up on my website, but password protected, so only people that get the password from me can watch the film. And I don't know, like I've gotten some suggestions from people of like segmenting it up and putting the segments up on YouTube or Instagram or TikTok or something.
Why segment?
And then
You mean like shorts?
because people are only willing to watch short pieces, short works. And if I take a 36-minute film and break it into, let's say, 8 5-minute pieces or something like that.
I don't think you need to break it up. I know people who have
Yeah.
whole films on YouTube, and people go there and they've had it, or I think Aaron Carlson. I don't know who that is.
I don't know, but yeah.
He does the horror. Jason Voorhees. Friday the
Okay.
13th, Freddy Krueger, that type of thing, and
Mhm.
over 10,000 views. And so
Really?
yeah, it's over an hour long. So I
So
think
maybe that's an avenue that I should try, or
yeah,
maybe I should do the one segmenting it up and then have like a final release on YouTube or something. Um,
yeah.
maybe combine those methods. I'm not really sure, and I feel also that my attention should be on Anything Helps and Son of a Bish, although I'm not editing Son of a Bish. So, um,
Hmm.
but yeah, I don't know. I mean, any of your listeners or watchers that have advice or recommendations,
Yeah.
I'm
Reach
ears. I'm
out.
all ears. Yeah.
What, Chris? We're gonna wrap this up. What is the
Yeah.
most constructive criticism that you've ever received in your film career?
Oh boy. Oh my gosh, you put me on the spot, man. I am having a hard time thinking of what that would be. Um, constructive criticism. I mean, I guess it's happened a little bit in Diablos, where Ian and I really had our heart set on editing the first scene a certain way, and everyone said that it wasn't working. And we thought it was. We were like, this is exactly what we wanted. We were doing a lot of jump cuts in there. And we had to basically just realize that no one liked that except me and Ian. And we had to change it.
Was it to provoke emotion? Is that why?
It was to provoke a sense of discontinuity in the main character's
Mm,
mind, and to show how fragmented his thought process was when he was being bullied. Like it was a moment when he was getting all of this barrage of bullying, of
yeah,
verbal abuse,
yeah.
and we wanted to show all the emotions in a very short amount of time. Like all these, the acceptance or the resignation or the ignoring it or the rage or whatever, all in like a short chunk. And what was funny is that we had a bunch of jump cuts in a later portion of the film. And sometimes I was asking the people that were criticizing that opening scene, well, what about this portion? And they're like, oh, I don't see the jump cuts there. I'm like, well, they're the same. It's like the same pattern. It's like the same crazy. And for some reason, it didn't work in the opening scene, but it completely worked near the climax,
Huh.
to the point where they didn't even notice it.
Interesting.
And yet it was the same editing techniques. And I mean, I don't know if that's the right answer in terms of like the best constructive criticism I've gotten, but that's what came to my mind
Yeah.
as being like, okay, even though I think it's working, if no one else thinks it's working, it's not working. And you have to go with that.
So here's the next question for you,
Sure.
and this will be interesting. I want to hear your perspective on it because you went to film school, you learned film, then you went back to school to learn digital. Now we're in this AI era. Are you gonna? Is there any possible future of integrating AI into your films or utilizing it for whatever?
Yeah, that is a great question. It's a great sort of like question for the age, right?
Yeah,
Um, I'd say at this stage, the jury is still out, mostly because of money.
yeah,
I don't know what I could afford in terms of achieving something photorealistic in a film.
yeah,
I don't know. I'd say that even the AI that will be used in the future is not an AI that I have accessible to me now. So I don't know it as a tool. I don't know how to use it as a tool to create what I would want. I do know though that like I've been building and then rebuilding this animatic for Scapegoat,
What are you using for
and
that?
I've been bringing in actors that love the script and are willing to sit there and perform in my living room with good microphones
Oh,
and performing the voiceover for that. And I do know that I have been continuing to make changes to the scripts, and sometimes I feel badly bringing the actors back again. And several of them have suggested, not the ones that I need back, but other actors have suggested, you have enough raw material of these actors. Couldn't you just run their voice through like a voice cloning? And because the animatic is not a final product,
Right,
the
right.
animatic that I'm building is a proof of concept
Yeah.
for what I'm hoping to be a feature film. And this is for Scapegoat again. So the animatic looks like a feature film made out of paper dolls,
Yep.
just kind of moving around and dancing in frame movement and stuff. And that is not the outcome. That is a means to an end. That's a proof of concept, getting people to understand what I'm going for.
Sure.
So I feel like it's not a terrible thing if I don't have to disturb an actor who now has moved across the country or across the state to basically run some voice clonings that I don't have to worry about him or her coming back. And I can just get this done for the animatic,
Yeah.
knowing that those actors likely will not be in the live action film, and that would be cast in a traditional way and performed in front
Sure.
of cameras. So in that respect, I do see AI could be useful for that, in the sense that if I'm not paying these actors anyway, why am I bothering them over and over to come back a fourth or fifth or sixth time
Mm-hmm.
to record these extra lines that I feel like will make the script a little bit better? So in that respect, as a preliminary stage, it could be very useful. And I'm not sure how much any of your listeners or viewers might be familiar with the process that Pixar uses uh, for their writing and rewriting, is that they build low res, simple, hand drawn animatics for their entire film. And then they screen the animatic for their entire staff, and then they get feedback, and then they go back to the drawing board and they rewrite, and they make another animatic, and they get feedback, and so it's that loop, and they go through it about 4, 5, 6 times. And the reason why so many of the Pixar films are so good is because it went through this reiterative process over and over. And so I feel like um, that is the same method that I've employed without knowing that I was using the same method as Pixar on Scapegoat to make that better, to improve the script. And so I nearly finished the animatic in 2019, and I had several screenings, and I realized from those screenings that the feedback was all um, nearly universal. And maybe that's getting back to your earlier question, what's the best constructive criticism I got? It was this broad, universal critique that I got from 3 screenings where everyone said, the end is amazing, the end is great, don't touch it. Those last 40 minutes are phenomenal. The first half, the first maybe hour, are a little slow, and it feels a little too traditional. It feels a little too uh, not enough setups for the payoffs, and not enough of the main character having agency in his own story. So there was all that feedback that I got that made me go, okay, how do I make this script better? And
Yeah.
so I gave myself the freedom to like gut whatever wasn't working and rewrite it, and then bring the actors back, and the voiceover actors back. And I had to recast 3 big characters, including the main character, the Judas Iscariot character, and 2 other main characters. And then I brought back other actors to reprise their roles in other parts. So it was that reiterative process that was so valuable for me, and I know that I would never have gotten all that great juicy feedback had I not put the animatic together. I would not have gotten that feedback based on just people reading the script.
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, as you probably know, if you send a script out to 100 people, 90% of them will tell you that they're going to read it, and 10% actually do.
I've been guilty on that other side.
And yeah, and maybe all of us have. Maybe all of us have
Yeah.
have done that at various times, because then you deprioritize it, like, oh, I don't have the focus now to read a
Yeah.
feature script. I don't have the 2 hours, or I want to read it in a continuous chunk of time. But having the animatic in place, which took me 9 years on and off.
Wow.
I mean, it was a big chunk of my time, 9 years. And then to get that feedback was so valuable and so juicy that it made me gut at least 27, 28%, almost 30% of the script overall.
Yeah.
That I knew it reminded me that I had something really powerful on my hands, but it wasn't there yet. It wasn't done.
Hey, if Hollywood films can do that, I mean, they go and they
Oh my
test
gosh,
screen
right?
it, and then they have to go
Yeah.
and reshoot things, and that's
Sure.
Yeah. millions of dollars there. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
Chris, what is your favorite tech or app or camera or something that you would recommend for other people to check out?
Filmmaking related?
Yeah.
My favorite tech.
Is there an app that you use when you're on set, or is everything on paper, or
Oh.
do you have an Avid?
Yeah, since I storyboard everything, all that stuff I can't even stand looking at the storyboards on the screen. I have the pages and I flip through the pages. So that tech is a 3-ring binder.
There you go.
uh I mean, but since I'm not a Luddite at all. Like I really embrace a lot of technology, and I do feel that After Effects has become my go-to compositing for anything that I do that I don't like on set. Like Diablos, you saw it.
Yeah.
It's 36 minutes. There's probably about 75 visual effects shots in the film.
Nice.
And probably most viewers would identify maybe 2, maybe 3 tops. But I do really love to tinker with the framing or the shot or the focus or stabilizing shots or whatever. So I'm really reinventing shots in post-production
Yeah.
to get what I want, to clean it up the way that I envision it to be the better shoots or the better shots,
After
I should say.
Effects.
Yeah, so I'm really definitely an After Effects guy. It's interesting because most of the time when people learn that I do visual effects, they assume instantly that I do 3D
Mm.
CGI stuff. And that's such another whole category and
Yeah.
compartmentalized thing. I don't do 3D CG stuff. Like that's just to make that stuff look photorealistic. That's a lot of work for just like a vase or whatever,
Yeah.
But for me, the compositing on a 2D level is really I'm so adept at it that I can get what I want
Are you
quickly
on a
and
Mac or a
asymmetrically.
PC?
I'm on I'm on a Hackintosh.
Hackintosh. All right.
So it's PC parts running Mac software.
Yeah, that's
And
awesome.
apparently you can't do Hackintoshes anymore because the way that the OS has progressed using the M1 chip, the M2 chip, whatever. So I'm on like a maybe 5-year-old machine, 4-year-old machine that I cannot do as a Hackintosh anymore. So my next computer will be, I've always done Macs until this Hackintosh.
Yeah.
So, and my next computer will be a Mac. And even the Mac Minis have become really pretty sophisticated
Oh,
now
yeah.
that they have enough power that I wouldn't necessarily need a tower. But I do have a tower that's a PC tower. It's like a gaming tower, but not.
Yeah.
It's running
It's got enough.
Mac OS 10.15, I think. So it's an older OS at this point.
Hey, if it
So,
works. What?
yeah. But my brain works the way that Macs work and not PCs. So I just can't stand the PC
That's so funny.
interface. Yeah.
I became a Microsoft certified engineer and did PCs.
Oh, cool.
And then I wanted to do something more creative. Went to school, came back, and I was like, Mac all the way. That's all I'm gonna touch.
That's so funny. So you were a convert too.
Yeah. And I mean, I have parallels on my Mac just so I can go into Windows if I need to.
Sure.
But I'm like, oh, Mac is the
Yeah.
only way. What? All right. So for people who want to watch Diablos, how do they reach out to you? What's the best way to reach you?
Okay, so my website is just christopherjulian.com. I have regretted having Christopher in the website name because I hate being called Christopher. It sounds like I did something bad. But yes, my website is christopherjulian.com. On there is both the commercial client-based work that I do and a collection of features and shorts. Diablos and Scapegoat, the animatic for Scapegoat, are up there, as well as Vicious and a trailer, some stuff for Invisible Ink. So they can check out those 4 pieces on there, and eventually Son of a Bish and Anything Helps will be up there too.
Nice.
But my email is on the website too, and that's just chris@christopherjulian.com. And if people did want to see Diablos, they could ask me for the password.
Just email you, send you a message.
Yeah.
Awesome.
or they could probably find me on Facebook and message me there if they want. And there I'm just Chris Julian because, again, I hate being called Christopher.
So when you started your website, did you like?
I looked for chrisjulian.com and it's taken. It's some like
Okay.
audio engineer in LA who hasn't updated his website in freaking 7 years. And I'm like, fuck. It's really annoying to me. And probably eventually I'll be like, dude, I'll give you what, $150. Just give me your URL. You're not using it. You're not using it. You're not doing anything with
Well,
it.
you know they have other things in .com now too. You can say .biz. Like you can go
Yeah, yeah, that's
chrisjulian.biz or
true.
Chris
Yeah, that's
Julian.
true. Or I could do CO, or I could
Yeah.
do CA and pretend I'm in Canada because I really would love to move there. Anyway.
Chris, thank you so much for coming on the Down and Cut. I appreciate your time and the
Absolutely.
stories
Thank you so much for having
and the
me. Yeah.
knowledge that you've shared with everybody.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It has really been a blast chatting with you. It's been super fun, and we definitely will have to catch up again
Yes.
sometime. Maybe not here, but maybe. Who knows? But it's wonderful. Yeah, and you're making me think about things that I really should be thinking about. So.